Hello and welcome to Football Manager 2023 Roleplay, a project where we create a player using the FM pregame editor. We give him potential ability of 200, and we will see if he will become the greatest American footballer ever. Now, unlike many Football Manager videos on YouTube, we will not be managing a club, and we will simply watch the progression of this player, Henry Marshall, from the age of 15 to hopefully his eventual retirement. This is a world building exercise where FM23 provides the events and we build a story around those events. Let's look at his summary of his career. Now, as you can see, he is now 17 years old. He has just returned back from the Olympics, where the U.S. men's under 23 team had reached the quarterfinals. He's also improved slightly in his current rating from 120 to 121. And then the last episode, we learned that Atlanta United has decided not to compete for a new contract when Henry Marshall's time is up at Atlanta, which means at the beginning of 2025, Henry Marshall will go off to Liverpool. Now, I've taken a look at Liverpool. So the question then becomes, what does a 121 current ability get you at Liverpool? The answer is it doesn't get you much. If you're 18 years old, which he will be in Liverpool, and I've looked at some of these players whose current ratings were in this area here, what it gets you is it puts you on, let's try to find this guy, Reese Williams. I think, no, it's not Reese. Let's try, is it Ben Doak? Yeah, there he is. It gets you onto the Liverpool under 21s team, playing in something called the Premier League 2, which appears to have two divisions. You have Liverpool's under 21 squad in the first division of Premier League 2. And what it also gets you, as you can tell just by looking at all the green stuff down here, is it gets you loaned out to other clubs because Liverpool is a powerful team. Lots of money. They can afford to bank its young future talent to later either sell it off to other clubs or to mature it for themselves. Now, currently, the only nations I have loaded in this game are the big five European countries, as well as the USA and Mexico. If Henry gets loaned to some other country, we're not going to be able to follow those games, and we'll have to figure out a workaround. It also looks like, and if you look at some of these salaries here, in the let's get back to that screen. Yeah, here are guys around the 120 range. You see some of these salaries right here. It looks like Henry would probably get six figures at least, maybe somewhere between 500,000 to 700,000 American dollars a year. And for Atlanta United, that would have put him in the top 10 of the club in salary. At Liverpool, a salary like that, it's nowhere near the top, nowhere even close to the top 10 at Liverpool. Let's now take a look at Atlanta United. First, I'll reset this search back so that it brings up Atlanta United instead. There we go. We're back at Atlanta United. Let's see what games are left on the schedule. Let's see. Right here, we have some. Look at what's left of Henry Marshall's career. There are three chances to win some trophies. I mean, there's the League's Cup, which they just finished the quarterfinals, beating Chivas. There's the U.S. Open Cup, which is the U.S.'s knockout tournament. And then there's possibility of going to the MLS playoffs. And how is Atlanta doing in the MLS? Well, as it turns out, they have now risen to fourth in the Eastern Conference. They have 44 points on the year. And maybe if they had a winning streak, they could challenge for the Eastern Conference title. But I suspect that Atlanta has a more realistic goal, and that's just to stay up here in the top four teams. that would give them at least home field in the opening round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. And let me talk about one more item. Now, every now and then, I've got to keep my eye on some stuff that FM23 wouldn't notify me about. For example, let's suppose Henry were to change agents. Well, the only place I can tell where you could be notified about that is if you go here to the information section, which actually lists his name, and then there's a link to Hunter Alvarez right here, 52 years old. But if you were to change, there'd be no notice in the social feed, there'd be no notice anywhere. You come over here, and then you just suddenly find a new guy there. That would be all the notice that you ever got. Likewise, in the the in-game editor, you can find personal information, and this is always a very interesting screen to look about if you don't know it. It tells you the people that the player likes or dislikes. So he all of a sudden likes some people, Jim Curtin and Wilfried Nancy. Now, that the first player on that list is Jim Curtin. He's currently the head coach at Seattle, but he was the former USA head coach. And to me, a 50 rating makes absolutely no sense because Henry Marshall played for Jim Curtin in a grand total of one game. It's the only cap he ever got so far. He sat on the bench in another U.S. national team game. Then Curtin lost his job. Now, I don't think it's enough of an impression to score a 50, but yeah, maybe it is. I mean, who knows? Maybe upon retrospect, maybe Henry Marshall really thought that Jim Curtin knew what he was doing. After all, I mean, he resigned from the mess of the U.S. national team after 2 years, like a rat leaving a sinking ship. So maybe Jim Curtin was a lot smarter than Henry gave him credit for. The next like is, Wilfried Nancy. And it's more understandable here why he's getting an 18 from Henry Marshall. First, unlike many managers, Nancy actually talks to his players. He has actual conversations with those players. Second, you have to admire the wily bastard. I mean, the press and his own players have been trying to get him fired all season, and yet Nancy hangs on. He's a survivor. It provides Henry an object lesson. If you really want something in life, you have to dig in with your fingernails and never let go of it. And Henry knows that when he's off to the UK, he is really going to miss Wilfried Nancy. Okay, that's it. Let's start trying to play through the string, as it were, on the rest of Henry Marshall's career. Go back here, schedule. We're going to try to play some of these games, see how the Leagues Cup go. It looks like the Leagues Cup and the Open Cup, U.S. Open Cup, are going to be the primary focus. Talk soon. Welcome back. We are now up to September 4th, 2024. We've played through a few games. Let's kind of go through what's happened here. We're going at the social media feed, and you can't really see it down at the very bottom because we kind of cut it off in time. But Captain Luis Araujo, he'll sign a new 4-year deal with Atlanta United. This deal will assure that for now he is the highest paid player of Atlanta United at $3.5 million a year. Let's take you to the game at the 10th. This was against Orlando City. Orlando City was 12th in the East. Atlanta was 4. Atlanta steals 3 points with a 1-0 win that Atlanta shouldn't have won in that one. You can see that Paez's 8.1 rating here, it saves the day. Gets him player of the match. Henry has a 6.7 match rating on his return home. Nancy claimed in the pre-match press conference that Orlando City had lost its swagger, and he cashed in on that prediction. This win moved Atlanta United to second place in the Eastern Conference temporarily. In the Olympic Games, France beat Germany. Spain would beat Mexico, and he would take the bronze medal. Ronald Hernandez, he goes down 5 weeks with an ankle injury. Bradley Carnell's contract is ending at St. Louis City. He could end up managing with some other club. Let's take a look at the Leagues Cup game on August 13th. This is the Eastern semis of the League Cup. They're up against Toronto, which is the number one team in the Eastern Conference. And despite the home field advantage, Atlanta loses 1-0. They are knocked out of the League's Cup. Marshall was not very good at that game. He had a 6-1 match rating in it. But thankfully for him, there was not a whole lot of offense. Excuse me, I'm wrong about that. He has 6-9 match rating. It's actually a pretty good rating. But there wasn't a lot of offense. It's one of those just late season games where every no, it was a 6-9. There you go, 6-9 rating, low scoring match. It just really mattered who got lucky, and in this case, the person who got lucky was Jordan Latumba. He was the guy who scored the goal in the 41st minute. Atlanta knocked out of the League's Cup. Easy come, easy go. Let's talk about the U.S. Open Cups. U.S. Open Cup semifinals. Now, there are 4 teams in the semifinals of the U.S. Open Cup: New England, Atlanta United, Minnesota United, Houston Dynamo. We go to the to August 20th, and that one was a 1-0 win on the road against New England. Fuller and Balogun, he was the only scorer in that game. Kick in the 39th minute, put Atlanta up on top of there. There's the Marshall 6-1 rating that wasn't so great. Like I said, not a lot of offense here. Martin Pace, he has a 7-8 rating. He gets the player of the match in that one. The final is going to take place on September 25th, but unfortunately, they will have to play Houston at home in that game. Justin Garces, he was the guy. Remember him? He was the guy who caused a trouble for Wilfried Nancy a couple of months ago. Now he wants to be removed from the transfer list. He had threatened that he would leave at the end of the year if he didn't get playing time. And now he wants to, I don't know, hang around. I mean, did the board give Nancy some private assertions that, his job was safe for next season? We don't know. Gonzalo Pineda gives Nancy even more praise. That's the game week on the road against Portland. Atlanta in the number 2 spot in the East. Portland the number 5 spot. Disappointing 1-0 loss. Now, in the last 4 games, Atlanta United has scored only 2 goals. They just gave up too much possession and too many chances to Portland. Marshall's match rating this game slightly better. There's like a 6 point. Let me see if we can find it. That's actually pretty good. No, they have a 6.9 in that rating. Now, about this time, Marshall. It looked like Marshall was going to be playing for the USA national team, because if you looked at his if you looked at the roster for Atlanta United, he got that IPR badge that stated that he was proud to be part of the selection, but it didn't state which national team he'd be playing for. If he does play for the USA men's national team, it would be his first game under new U.S. head coach Brian Schmetzer. He didn't appear to be named in the U23, the U20, or the U19 squads. I think he's going to be playing for the main squad. He would be the youngest man on that team. Let's go to September the 1st. We'll talk about the U.S. team. This is a draw. It's a 0-0 draw. Atlanta just can't score any offense at all. In the last 4 games, they've scored a grand total of 2 goals. And Henry Marshall was up for this game. He wanted to beat the team that failed to protect him. And let him end up in Atlanta. Basically, he has a horrible game. Gets jitters. 6-1 match rating. Doesn't matter. DC United's been a shit show since John Hart took over. They can't do any better. Oh, and guess what? 2 more players, Raymar and Jake Davies. Now they're unhappy with Wilfried Nancy. It's going to be a start of that old drama at Atlanta United, which just never seems to end. But it's not going to be anything to worry about for Henry Marshall. He's going to be with the U.S. men's soccer team. They have 2 games to play. There's going to be 1 game against let's see if we can pull him up here. Yep, there he is. There's Henry Marshall. 2 games, 1 against Bulgaria, 1 against New Zealand, 2 friendlies. The first game is going to be in Kansas City, Kansas, and Henry's parents are definitely going to drive up. They will watch that game and meet him on September the 4th, and then there will be a game against New Zealand on the 7th. And we'll catch up with you in a little bit. And we are back again. We moved all the way to October 4th, 2024. Let's go ahead and try to catch you up to that point. Henry Marshall had 2 friendly games. One was in Kansas City, Kansas, that his parents attended. That would be against Bulgaria. The other one would be in Bridgeview, Illinois. That would be against New Zealand. Let's take a look at the Bulgaria friendly. The Bulgaria friendly was a comfortable 3-0 win for the United States. However, Henry was pretty much bench bound on that one. He did not participate in that game. He liked seeing his parents again. Took a huge trip to see him, but unfortunately, they didn't actually get a chance to see him play. So, kind of sad. Next game was going to be against New Zealand, and that one was a 3-1 game. He did get a chance to play in that one. He got his second USA cap. He did not start that game, though. He came on in the 36th minute, had a respectable 6-7. As you can see, the USA, even though they took more shots, I mean, their XG is pretty comparable. But the only team, it was New Zealand's Chris Wood that kept New Zealand from being shut out in that game. Always hard to travel, I guess, on the road to the United States. Wilfred Nancy, as you can see, he is still playing whack-a-mole with contracts here. He satisfied Raymar. Raymar's unhappy. Then he satisfies Raymar. Then all of a sudden, Sis is unhappy. The poor man just can't win. Let's go back to the MLS. And on September 11th, Atlanta is in the number 3 spot in the Eastern Conference. They are taking on New England. Now, what happens is Atlanta will lose that game 2-0 to the visitors. As Atlanta's offense right now is about as solid as an ice cream cone. I mean, it's a very somber game. A lot of U.S. patriotism on display, and the anniversary of 9/11. Players from both squads, are out in international duty. Also, another poor showing by Henry Marshall. A lot of poor showings recently. He only had a 6.4 match rating. Atlanta didn't even get off a single shot on target in that game. The fans started leaving the venue early. In the last 5 games, Atlanta has scored exactly 1 goal. And in the last 3 games, Atlanta has been shut out. Austin, they were leading the Western Conference at this point. They would be the ones who secured the first playoff of the season. The next game to look at is going to be on the 18th. That game is going to be against St. Louis City. This is Henry's old team, and they get that win, home win 2-0. Henry, as for his performance, it's still a 6-3. It is still, pretty much in a crapper. He's just really struggling late this season. Atlanta was very lucky that St. Louis's offense was dead. They only made three really shots on the goal all night. Alberto Carrasquilla of Atlanta, he would have both a goal and an assist. And Carrasquilla would be a player of the match. Some very interesting stuff here. We have Josh Wolf at Columbus. Nancy's saying, hey, Josh Wolf is trying to turn this club that's at the bottom of the Eastern Conference around. And what does Josh Wolf come and do? We say, look here. You say, if Nancy had still been at Columbus, I would even have a worse job. Wilfred probably wants people to forget his dubious time, in charge here. Pretty much unprovoked remark. I guess some bad feelings. I mean, okay, Josh, how worse? Your club's in last place. How much worse can that be? although Columbus does seem to be getting better. The next game, we only have 3 more regular season games at this point, and the last game is the home game. And there is only 1 point separate, actually not 1 point, pardon me. There are only 8 points separating number 1 Toronto Football Club versus number 7 Inter Miami. So we have this next game. Show you. Let's take a look at this here. All right, next game is at home against Los Angeles Football Club. Atlanta came into that game at the number 4 spot. LA Football Club, number 9 in the Western Conference. Had a 1-0 loss at the hands of the visitors. God, I mean, what could Atlanta do? Can't do anything right here. Atlanta does not want to lose that home game advantage in the playoffs. The race is very tight. This game doesn't help. Marshall 6'6" is that's okay. It's exactly mid-level for a player. And Henry Marshall's got to be wondering right now what Liverpool must be thinking of their new acquisition if they're watching any of these MLS games with him in them. Despite the loss, as it turns out, everybody else in everyone else in the East is pretty much sucking wind. So despite the fact that Atlanta can't find the goal to save its life, it has now officially qualified for the American postseason. Charlotte, Toronto, New York City, Atlanta, all of those clubs are now officially in the playoffs. And now we go to the U.S. Open Cup Finals at Houston. Henry Marshall didn't get a chance to get a Leagues Cup. Can Atlanta get a cup against the Houston Dynamo? They have to go to Houston to play this. And there are 1,000 Atlanta United fans that came by bus, in attendance. And Henry Marshall said, you know what? I got to step up my game. And he does step it up. He will have a 7.0 match rating. The problem is Atlanta will not step it up. They still will not find any offense. Balogun, 6'4", Bielk, 6'1". Araujo had a 7.0, but Marshall's 7.0. But in the end, nothing. Atlanta, graceless, of a foul-filled game. Houston held possession. They kept it. And as you can see here, Andrea Derricker's goal in the 44th minute, just before the half. That won it for Houston. Houston wins the U.S. Open Cup, and Atlanta goes home without a trophy. And next game is going to be on the 28th. This game is going to be against the LA Galaxy. Here are the standings. Gonzalo Pineda and Wilfred Nancy, once again, sharing mutual backslapping. You're doing a great job. Oh, thank you. And at least Atlanta this time finds an offense, and they make it to a tie. Tie on the road against the Galaxy. That's not bad. Henry Marshall, he has a good rate, good game there, 7.0. Look at these XGs here. Look at these shots on target. Just absolutely a shit show of a game. Atlanta just manages to steal 1 point. Austin wins the supporter shield. Wilfred Nancy, he says Nancy expects Marshall to give his all before, and he's telling the truth. He's talking. Wilfred Nancy's trying to give the kids some advice. Yeah, he'll be giving his all in every game. It'll rub off on the rest of the squad. Let's actually, as well, we have a chance. Let's take a look at the actual standings. So here we are: Charlotte, Toronto, Atlanta United is now in third. It looks like this is what they got to worry about. They got to worry about losing this game against Austin coming up, the last game of the regular season here. They don't want to fall into fifth place. Atlanta is going to need every advantage it can get. These 2, 3, and 4 spots, in the opening round, they'll be playing at home, and they need that. Red Bulls in Nashville looking on the outside here, Austin, Houston, Vancouver, Real Salt Lake, Minnesota United, Portland, Colorado, Los Angeles Football Club has I think even if they tie it, the goal differential is just too great here. Colorado's pretty much all but in. And that's the end of this episode. Next time, we're going to look at that last game of the 2024 MLS season, as we'll be looking in the future at some of the following MLS playoff games. We'll cover some time in the offseason until Henry Marshall heads to the UK and starts his career with Liverpool. Anyway, if you like what you hear or see, make a comment or hit the like and subscribe button. Until next time.